Hi there, welcome to part 3. We'll do a quick overview and then we'll get stuck into what build we're going to be doing on this particular video. Now, as you may have noticed last time it was in two halves. I've actually glued it together. Simple reason being I kept on breaking these teeth off. It kept on annoying me, so I glued the two halves together and put a support strut in to keep everything nice and stable. The second thing is that I've actually made some windows and glazed them. They're not fitted as yet, but they soon will be. If you didn't catch the video that I did on doing the glass effects, I will link it at the end of the video for you so you can go and have a look. As for the windows and doors, there is a video I put out a while ago about making windows and doors. Now, it does really need updating, which I'm going to do, and I will do that over the next week or so. So we'll leave the windows and doors alone. They will be fitted as we're going along, but I will do a separate video and update that one. So that's got that out of the way. Far side wall, well, you know it's got to be in because I've glued the two together. But that's how the outside stands at the moment. Now, I really need to turn my attention to the inside. Now, this is going to be sat on the edge of the diorama base like so, at that sort of angle. And this line here that I've put this piece of wood in, that is going to be the edge of the actual diorama base. So what we need to do now is create, we've got to create the ground floor and the first floor. But there's a slight twist to this. I'm going to do a wood floor instead of a concrete floor. Simple reason is I am seriously considering actually making a cellar as well to go with this that will actually be sunk into the diorama base. And that's the reason why I'm going to be putting a wood floor in instead of a concrete base, because it's going to give me options. I'm not quite sure. I'm still working on how I'm going to do it, and also I still need to have a chat with bees about it as well, because we don't really want this diorama to be too high. So that's the reason why I'm going to be using wood. Now, that's explained that bit, and we're dillying and dallying about here because really I need to get on. So what we should be doing now is I'm going to be cutting some timbers, which I will give you all the sizes for in a very few minutes. And we'll be creating first a ground floor using these timbers. That one's a bit thick. I haven't got enough of them, but we'll go through building the ground floor, getting it planked out, and also getting the first floor plasterboard done up to this level. So I'm going to put you on pause. I'm going to get the windows glued in. I don't think I really need to show you that because that's sort of self-explanatory how to glue a window in. But I will get the windows glued in, and then we'll start getting this ground floor done, ready for plasterboarding. Now, I've done just some basic prep before I start making this floor. First thing is get yourself a nice flat surface. I'm using a 600 by 300 ceramic tile. Fantastic. I know it's flat and it's great to build on. Also, what I've done, I've taped a roofing square down just by using a bit of masking tape. Nothing too technical. And also I've covered the whole thing with cling film. Cling film is a good friend when you're playing about with PVA. Just stops things from sticking to other things, especially if you don't want them to be stuck. So I've got my roofing square, I've got it, my piece of cling film. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this to make sure that everything is kept square. Just slightly move the camera there for you. You can see. So this is just strictly for me, so I know that the walls, everything's square as I'm building. Now, we need to build this floor. Now, The timbers that I'm actually using are 5mm width, and the diameter is it's 2.4. Now I'm going up slightly in thickness because it should be 1.7. The simple reason is I'm going slightly wider is because I want a little bit more strength in this floor, because it's virtually going to be free floating. There's not going to be much holding it up. So I've gone slightly thicker, but not that thick that it's really going to stand out, that ooh, that's out of scale, but it's just enough just to give that a little bit more strength. So I've cut all my timbers, all my joist timbers. I've also cut some 12mm spacers for the actual joists as well. Now these 12mm spacers, you need quite a lot of them because they do exactly what they say they do. They're spaced to joists, and it just makes life a lot quicker and easier if you just cut a load and then you've got a nice big pile of them which you can use. So first things first, if we put our joist against the actual wall there, as you can see, it's too far down. It's got you don't step into a building, you step up to a building. So we're quite a way down on the actual, I don't know if you can see that from up there, but we're quite a way down. So what we need to do is, first thing to do is get a couple of spacers and to lift the floor up to the level of that sill. Now all I've done, I've used some 2.1 pieces of balsa wood. I've covered them in cling film so nothing sticks to them, and we're going to use them as our spacers, and that's just simply lay them down. And cling film, they stop where you put them, which is great. They're not sliding around and moving. Now they go down like so. So now when we put our joist, I'll do that at an angle, we should be virtually there. Now the planks that I will be using, I should tell you now, they're 4mm wide and they're 0.9 thick. So as you can see, that and that brings us up nice and level with the sill, which is absolutely brilliant. So we've got past that bit. Now assembling. Our first joist is going to start on that wall, and then with our 12mm spacers, nothing too technical, with our 12mm spacers we'll put a spacer, glue it against the wall and to that joist, another spacer halfway down, and we'll glue that one, and then we'll be doing our next joist which will be glued against it. Very, very simple, straightforward, and we'll be working from that side all the way back. So it's going to be spacer, joist, spacer, joist, spacer, joist. So it's all set out nice and equal, and you know it will look nice. Believe me, trust me. Now the other thing is that as you go along, you're going to need to cut your joists. Now there's two ways that you can actually do it. You can just put them in and cut them off later. That's up to you how you want to do that. If you want to do that, you can do that. The way I'm actually going to do it, I'm going to mark them up and I'm going to snap them. I'm going to actually break the ends off to give that effect of the timbers actually being snapped. I don't want a surgical cut, so that's what I'll be doing. I should be marking them up using a piece of timber, and I would be simply just going from side to side, marking it, then snapping them. But what I should do a couple of joists, and then I should come back to you and we'll just run through it. I had to move a couple of the things around. The first one was this spacer I had at the end. All I did was cut this at an angle because the joists are running at an angle. This was just sat there, not doing anything. So I've moved it across so it just sits under the joists, just to keep the spacing equal all the way through. Now the Tamiya glue is strictly just for a little bit of weight while everything dries. I've got 4 of the joists in with the spacers, and all I'm going to do now is I'll just continue on, keep coming back. And as you can see on the ends there, I've just broken the ends just to make that, well, broken look. That's what I'm aiming for. So I'm going to carry on now and get the rest of these in place, and when I get to the end I shall come back. Right, as you can see, I've got all the joists in, I've got all my spacers in. I've put a few extra spacers, what, about 10-15 mil back. This is just to stabilise this end up. That's the only reason they're there. Now that's all done and complete. The next little task is to actually get some planks running all the way across. Now I've got a load of these little planks cut, so what I shall be doing now is starting from that back wall, one at a time, gluing them down and moving all the way across to the end. The end bits I'll just be breaking off roughly in line with the ends of the joists. So I shall do a few and then I shall come back to you. Okay, I'm about a quarter of the way across. The pins are just to hold everything down. The dressmaker's pins, I use them to hold the planks down while the glue dries. That's about it really, because all I'm going to do now is just continue on. And I didn't say in earlier clips, what I'm actually using is PVA. I'll bring the cup in there. PVA with some black painting. The simple reason is that darker joints, when we come to put a wash over the top of it, it just blends in a lot easier than ordinary PVA, because ordinary PVA leaves white patches. So that's the reason why it's I'm using the PVA in black. So when we actually come to wash it, you'll see that it will just fade in with the rest of the wash. Now I'm going to carry on and I'm going to get this all planked out, and then I shall be back to you again. Okay, I've got all the planking in, that's all done, and I've loosened it off, and that's roughly what it looks like underneath. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a wash on it, just a straightforward black wash. It's my normal standard wash, 25% black paint and 75% thinners. So I'm just going to wash that down, top, bottom, sides, the whole lot, and then we're going to move on to actually putting some plasterboard all the way around. Right, it's all had one coat of wash, just the black. I will be giving it a coat of brown just to give it that little bit of richness a bit later on, but not right away. What I want to turn my attention to now, we've got all the floorboards done and the joists, is I want to get on with the plasterboard. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to need to turn this on its side. So I'll put you on pause and I shall be back in a second. Okay, a little bit of a strange view, but there you go. Now what I'm going to be using is these. These are plaster sheets, as you can see, they're very thin. And these are to scale 8x4 sheet of plaster. They're moulded. You get the mould from diorama debris. They're very, very useful. And all we're going to do is literally glue these on to the wall, like so. Another one. I'll just demonstrate. So we just glue them all the way along, like so. And also the great thing as well, the top of that will be your ceiling level. So it's doing two jobs for you. It's covering the walls and also it's giving the height of your next floor. I'll be gluing them down with straight PVA. I shall get all this side glued down, come back to you, and then we'll move along to the front. Okay, back with my little turntable. Now I've plasterboarded all that side, as you can see. That's now ready just to have a little bit of rub down skirting board picture rail, stuff like that, which we will be doing before we do the next level actually, because it's going to be easier to get at. So what I'm going to turn my attention to now is actually coming along this side. I'll just be cutting these plaster sheets just to go around the outside the window, nothing too spectacular. So I'll be gluing all these on and getting this side done, and when I've completed I will come back to you. Okay, first things first. Now I've done the plaster sheeting on this back wall. Now I did have a question from somebody who said, why have I gone to all the trouble of putting brickwork and then put the plasterboard on top? The simple reason is if I want to do damage to the walls, if I bring you in a little bit closer, because you can see it's like down this edge here where it was a broken bit I put in, but you can still see the brickwork. So if I wanted to break the plaster off, if I break the plaster off, you're going to see the brickwork behind, and so that's going to give it the proper effect, because there is brickwork behind plaster. It's as simple as that. So that answers that question. Now I'll pull you back there. What's got to be done now is I want to run some skirting board all the way around the bottom here. Also I want to trim up the windows and get them finished off. You may have noticed I've put the door frame in. I want to get that a coat of paint on that and get that finished, plus this door frame just tidied up to make it look like the proper thing. I'm going to be using all bits of balsa wood 5mm for the skirting boards, nothing too spectacular, it's all just trimming up. And also I will be cutting a very thin strip to make a picture rail up to go all the way around. Now I'm doing all this for the simple reason is because once we get this floor in here, it's going to be very difficult to get inside there. So I'm going to trim and get all these things done. But there's a bit of a twist to this now, and like I said at the beginning, my plans are very fluid, and I did mention about that we might do a cellar, and we are going to do a cellar, and I will explain that to you in a very few seconds. So, and also there could even be a couple of little short walls going in here to house the stairs, and the stairs then will be finishing on this level here. So that's all to come. Now I'll put you on pause for a second and I'll show you about the... Okay, I'm back, and this is my idea for the cellar. Now this is a piece of I think it's 50mm foam board. Well, it's Celotex board actually. I use a lot of it in my dioramas because it's light, very, very strong. Now what I've actually done here is I've actually cut the shape out of the house. So if I put the house, the side of the house, I'll just put it on the corner so you get a idea. So I've cut that shape out. The actual house will fit directly in there like that. So the plan is now I'm going to be gluing this piece of foam board down, and then I'm going to be building walls up on the inside, and this will actually sit on top because I'm going to do this diorama in sections, so that will just sit on top of that next section, and we'll have a cellar to it as well. So it can be all brickwork. I'm going to tile the floor or slab the floor to make it look a bit more like a cellar, and that's my theory. That is my theory, and that's the way I'm going. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get on and get these bits and pieces done, and we'll have a quick look, and by the time I've done this and we've had a quick look, it's going to be up to the end of this video, and we'll have to carry this on in the next video. So I'm going to get on and I shall see you in a few seconds. Okay, I'm back. Now I've done everything that I said I was going to do. I've done the skirtings. I'll find a pointing stick, paintbrush, that will do. Done the skirtings, door frames. I've put the picture rail up. Picture rail was just a thin piece of balsa wood. I just cut that down just to about, I think it's about 1mm. That was the width of it. Very easily done. I've boxed the windows in and put a windowsill on, skirting, and also I've just given that another coat of wash. This was a brown one. It's just giving them that nice, well, wood look, should I say. So that's it. That's everything in this ground floor done for the moment. Now, this video has reached nearly half an hour, but I don't know how it's got to nearly half an hour, because it has. So I'm going to leave it now at this, and on the next video, when I come back, we'll be doing the cellar and getting that done, because at the moment I'm waiting on wallpaper, because we're going to stick a bit of wallpaper up. So thank you very much for joining me, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.